asleep. And
Okay,
Diane isn't
so
coming.
why is this so big? All right. Oh, I'm viewing Terry's screen. Why am I viewing? Okay.
Hey, Terry, we all see your screen.
Yeah, you want to stop your screen sharing? Otherwise I have to share mine. I don't know how to oh, stop participants sharing. There we go.
You all set now, Jennifer?
Yeah, I think you can call the meeting to order.
All right, we will call the meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. And the first order of business, would anyone be interested in taking notes in an acting secretary role for the meeting?
We do need a permanent secretary. Let's see, Nancy Ron has resigned from the committee. She and her husband sadly are moving out of Mansfield to Nashville. So we are going to be looking for a permanent secretary. It's not that hard. You're taking notes. We give you kind of there's a template. You have to pay attention to the meeting anyway. So I would greatly appreciate it if someone would take that on.
I feel like we should play the Jeopardy music or something right now.
I couldn't find my unmute thing. I'll volunteer to do it tonight. I understand you need a permanent person, and I think someone will definitely step up for that.
Thank you for volunteering for tonight.
What a terrible job I do. They'll say, "Oh my God, I can improve on that."
Thank you, Chris.
All right, so I don't think we ever officially take roll call, but Chris, if you just want to note for the minutes that who's here and that Melissa, Joe, and Diane are absent, that would be great. Thank you.
Actually, Melissa was going to come on too. So we'll see, but she's not here now. So
if they jump in, we'll add them into the attending list.
Yep.
No demerits for showing up late. We understand everyone's got families, kids, all of the good stuff. So approval of minutes. We haven't actually had a quorum, there's Melissa, in a while. So we have a lot of minutes to approve. Jennifer sent out the packet ahead of time. So I'd like to start with the May minutes and then we'll just work through our list. If anyone needs to, the minutes are linked in the packet. And when you are ready, I'll entertain a motion to accept the May 11 minutes. And if you have edits or changes for any of them, we can do those after a motion.
Am I allowed to keep the records and make a motion?
Yes, sir.
I'm kidding, but yes, good. I'll make a motion. We approve the May minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second? All right, I see Lori saying she seconds it. I can't hear her, but
I second that. I second that.
thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the May 11th minutes. Are there edits, changes, questions, discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Any opposed, nay? Motion passes. Now we have the June 8th meeting minutes.
Just a point of order, Stacy, there was no quorum. So you just have to note those for the record. There's no approval needed because there was not a quorum. It wasn't really an official meeting. It was just sort of a record of what happened. No action was taken.
So that makes that easier. Does anyone have any questions about the June 8th or August 24th meetings or the notes that we took? All right, seeing.
So, excuse me, but August was that was also not a quorum?
Correct.
Okay, so what did you call that, Jennifer? You had a name for it.
You just can write in for the minutes, the June 8th, 2021 and August 24th, 21 notes were noted. Yeah, that's redundant. So
For review.
How about that? Accepted? Is that okay?
Yeah,
Accepted?
reviewed, accepted.
yeah,
Terry, I'm not sure how to get your video on.
oh,
Should be a little on the bottom left corner to start your camera, but it may be something with your computer. One of my work colleagues said that today, and she's been Zooming and WebExing with us for the last 18 plus months, and we have no idea why she couldn't work it today.
so Terry, I just I sent a request for you to start your video. I don't know if you got that. Oh, nope. And you're no longer muted. Oh, yeah, you are. I think when you were sharing your video, I wonder if you're sharing your screen, if something happened at that point.
I think he might have done that when he was trying to get his video on.
Jennifer, what
Terry-
did you say? There were the great benefits of doing this virtually. What were they?
Terry, what I recommend is that you sign off and then try to get back on again.
And he's gone. Okay. Do we want to just give him a minute to try and get back in?
Sure.
Yeah, I had a little blip for some reason as well, like a minute ago, like my, I don't know if there was some internet blip, so could be something.
Lori, I feel like you and I are close enough. One of us could run down there and sit out on the patio with him and turn on some lights.
Right?
Socially distance.
We could. Poor Terry. I could just shout it. We could have like a little cup with a
Right, you're the
string.
neighbor. Yeah.
Yeah, I live right next door.
Yeah, you could definitely be there a lot faster than me, so. Well,
Okay.
while we're waiting for him to get back in, do we want to move on to the opportunity for public comment?
Yeah.
There's new text under this section, Jennifer, about public comment being accepted by this planning and zoning email address and all of that.
Yep, that's just, we can accept it. It's sort of our new language. Every time there's a new update to the executive order or the state statute, we update this. So basically, it's just saying that you can write in, you can call in, and then if people write in, we'll include their comments as long as we get it by 3 p.m. Otherwise, it'll be shared at the next meeting.
So they don't have to show up in person. Is that something we can also put on our website, or did you already?
I have not put that on our website, but I think it might be where the agendas are, but I can check on that.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering if I could make a comment during the public comment thing, because I don't see what I want to say on the agenda.
Let's see, because it's a special meeting, no items can be added to the agenda. So would it be just under communications or reports from a member? Would that be appropriate, Chris?
Reports from a member would be fine. Does
Okay,
that mean
well,
later
so
on?
then let's discuss that down on
Okay.
section 6. So right now you do have one member of the public who's here.
Alex, do you want to have any comments? Please feel free.
I'm going to just give a little intro because I invited Alex to come to this meeting. Alex had just purchased the property that surrounds McLaughlin Pond. It's I'll have you tell a little bit about the parcel because I always forget how many acres. And then maybe I was just hoping, actually Stacy recommended that I reach out to him, and Alex and Linda Painter and I had been talking anyways. So I thought it would be great for Alex to share his plans or just introduce himself to the committee? No pressure, Alex. You can say whatever you'd like.
No, I greatly appreciate the invite, and I have to say both Jennifer and Linda have just been absolutely fabulous to work with, and it makes me really enthusiastic to be within Mansfield. So again, thank you very much. In purchasing the property, it's actually an amalgamation of 3 lots, totaling 158 acres, and not an ounce of cleared land. So it's been a bit of a daunting initial kind of approach to the property. The end goal is to do as actually little damage to the property or the natural state it's in presently. We are trying to do specifically permaculture, or what I would say is highly sustainable agriculture, with an emphasis on doing silvopasture, because we do have quite a bit of oak and acorn and just natural things that could really, I think, benefit from a silvopasture model. We are hoping eventually to do a few greenhouses. No hemp, no weed. All that's becoming very popular in Connecticut right now. We're not looking to do that. And then eventually we want to really get into food education. So, and seeing that, call it end to end, in the sense that working with kids, specifically those maybe exposed to trauma or violence in inner city groups. We do work with 2 peace organizations presently out of Hartford. We do want to expose them to, this is how you grow it. This is how you process it. And this is how you actually cook it to eat, to kind of resolve some of the food desert issues that exist within Connecticut. And we do want to designate a 5-acre educational lot on the property that will be specifically designated for those groups. A part of that, provided it all works out, is we would like to do some level of food sales or a food service venue on the property. I would call it a cafe or small restaurant, with this emphasis again on food education, and really kind of a closed loop model of, we as the farm are supplying that entity as much as humanly possible, or from the Connecticut model. I think it's fair to say we can't grow everything, but we will certainly try to grow as much of it as possible. So that's kind of the initial plan. I'm sure it will change many a time. The line I get is that I'm a highly caffeinated squirrel, is my attention span. So I kind of look at new things all the time, and hope for the best. I still have plenty of time, so we'll see how it goes.
Welcome to Mansfield. That's maybe maybe you are a lifelong resident. I'm not sure, but welcome to Mansfield Agriculture. And we're excited to have your new venture farm in our community. Do you
Thanks
have
so
a
much.
farm name?
Fern Mill Farm. So there is a previous mill foundation on it. I have yet to figure out if it was a sawmill or if it was like a grain mill. So we're working on that research part of it. And the fern population is just massive on the property. So that was kind of the inspiration for that. And we actually have another entity which we actually purchased the lots with, which is a Golden Goat Farm, because we do eventually want to do goat and lamb on the property. So,
Alex, what was the name? I missed the name of the farm that you're
I'm operating under Fern Mill Farm.
Firm Mill?
Fern, like green.
Okay,
Yeah, fern. Yeah. No, it's all good.
Alex, could you share with us how to contact you?
Absolutely. I can type it in the chat if that works, just for everyone to copy and paste.
If you want to type it in the chat, Alex, but I also have Alex's contact information. But
If you're okay with Jennifer sending it out, Alex, that would be great. I do better
Please.
with emails than trying to catch it in the chat.
By all means, please share it. Yeah.
would you mind just sending me a quick email, Alex, and I'll make sure that will prompt me to send that out to the members, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Alex, are you living on the property or on one of your properties now, or where are you?
No, so I'm actually a resident of Columbia presently. The objective is to move into the Mansfield area within the next year to 2 years. Really, it's about clearing the lots, permitting the whole process. An unfortunate reality with the lot is utilities will prove to be a bit of an uphill struggle.
Have you heard of solar power?
Yes, we have contemplated it, and it's really still having to maybe potentially tie in to a grid and just like, can we sustain everything on that and not cause a problem? And again, we're trying to obviously operate with all the correct permits and do what we need to just stay in the good graces of Mansfield.
Yeah,
So
don't cross them.
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, so no, but I mean, we have entertained that. I mean, we might want to do small scale solar panels to supplement like any water resources on the property for pumps and basic irrigation. Our goal really is to be as little impact on the grid, so to speak, for less eloquent word, as we can. And also not to agitate neighbors with equipment and excavation. So no, but we are definitely considering solar power as an option. And unfortunately, it always comes down to a financial component. So we'll hopefully get over that hurdle.
Good, great. Well, that'd be great. I'd love to hear more about what you're up to. And it's welcome. Yeah, as Stacy said, welcome to Mansfield. Glad
Thank you
you're
so
here.
much. Thank you.
And we also, I don't know how much Jennifer shared with you, Alex, but we have a Mansfield agriculture brochure. And when you're ready, we would love to include your farm in that. They were working on edits. I'm not sure where that is. You might not want us to add you in today, but whenever you're ready, we have that information. We're working on updating our website and doing more agricultural outreach. So your farm aligns really well with the goals of our committee right now. And we do this at the beginning, Jennifer, but are we allowed to do introductions just so Alex knows who all of these
Yes,
are?
absolutely. Yes.
Lori, you want to start?
Oh, sure. Why not? Well, welcome, Alex. Hi, I'm Lori Travat. I'm the plant science teacher at E.O. Smith High School. I teach primarily 9th through 12th grade with 3 UConn courses. I currently teach fundamentals of horticulture and floral art level 1 and 2, and all about plant science. So all excited about what you're talking about there. And we also have a natural resources teacher in our department. I don't know how familiar you are with the agriculture and the FFA, future for agriculture, but we're right here in town. So really excited to hear about your progress as you move forward. Looking forward to it.
No, I mean, please capture my information when the email goes out. And if there's anything that you're ever looking for a resource for students or anything like that to work or experience that, we are more than welcome to that. That's really kind of our objective. So that's fabulous. Thank you.
Chris, you want to go next?
Sure. So my name's Chris Kiefner, and I don't know where to start. I have a lot of interests and so forth. One of them is forests and forest land and trees and so forth. So I think it's great that you dove in. I also am really into mills, one of my secret interests. So I'd love to find out more about what the possibilities are with your situation and your thoughts. But let's see. What else should I say, Stacy? Jennifer, what would you tell somebody about me?
Well, Chris, let's see. I think, why don't you talk about your farm? You own quite a bit of land, and you own a farm. You
got
own
some forest land as well. Okay, I'll mention that my wife and I got the Adventure Park at Stores started as a way to, basically as a way to preserve the land without wrecking it. It was a way to pay the mortgage, again, without wrecking the resource that enabled us. I mean, that's there. So, and in fact, it celebrates the resource. So that's pretty exciting. Love to have you as our guest at some point.
Absolutely.
Partner. So anyhow, so that's my scene. We've lived in town for, I don't know, about 30 years-ish, less than that, maybe 29, 28. And my wife and I live in town. We actually, as Jennifer mentioned, I have a couple of open fields that I continually offer as kind of free farming space for, as someone called them, I love the idea of incubator farms, and proud to say we've had 2 successful farm couples start their, test their ideas and enterprise, and then go off on their own and actually purchase their own property and become, well, in one case, full-time farmers, and the other, or virtually full-time because you can hardly do it. But in the other case, it's a significant part of their work and income. So anyhow, I value farming and forests and other things too. But for the purposes of this meeting, those are the two I'll mention.
That's fantastic. No, definitely look forward to talking more.
Melissa, you're next on my screen.
Hi, I'm Melissa Tindall. I have sort of several jobs. So I'm a freelance horseback riding instructor. I'm the coach of the Yukon dressage team, and I'm also a graphic designer. So my interest in agriculture is somewhat horse related. I'm involved in, helping with hay every year and, that sort of aspect of farming. We are in the process of building a house in Mansfield and have been for 6 years. It's a long project, but we're gonna do our own permaculture and stuff on our property. Yeah, so that's about it, I guess. Your project seems really cool.
Oh, thank you. No, I mean, that sounds great. I'll be contacting you of what to plant for pasture because that's where I kind of struggle with what the right formulation is. So
Yeah.
definitely.
Terry, can you unmute? So
I think he's not muted, but
He had put in the chat he wanted to start video, but maybe he's gone again.
well, I'll tell what Terry does, and you guys can chime in because we all know Terry so well. Terry's been a member for about at least, I want to say, like 5 years. And Terry is a vet, and he used to work for Heifer International, I know, and he's worked a lot with USAID, right? Is that doing work in Africa, doing dealing with drought management for livestock? Is that right? Am I getting that right, Stacy?
yeah, and they lived in Nepal for a while. When he started his career, he was a large animal veterinarian in Kansas. He and his wife Judy are from Kansas, and he's retired now. Then he went to Bayer and he did research and development. Then he worked for Heifer International. That's when he was in Nepal, or they were in Nepal and somewhere else. Anyway, wicked cool person to talk to.
That's intense. That's
Yeah.
intense.
Yeah. Oh, and he put in the chat, interested in regenerative agriculture farming. And he said it's a good summary. So we've been listening to you, Terry.
Good.
Yeah, and Terry's wonderful to talk to and bounce ideas off of. I think we've all done that more than once. So, and then I'm Stacy Stearns. Been on the committee for a long time now, and I'm part of Mountain Dairy, my family's farm here, and I work full-time at Yukon in the extension service. So if you have questions and need an extension educator, I manage extensions communications and can connect you to the right one if you need them.
Very cool.
Yeah. So is there other conversations we want to have about Alex's venture and agriculture in Mansfield? The town of Mansfield owns 10 agricultural properties, and they are managed by the town, and the agriculture committee has, we review the applications on a 5-year basis and annual reports from the farmers that lease those properties from us. And Jennifer can share more information about where those are and that type of stuff. Anything else we should share? And I don't know what Linda and Jennifer have already shared with you. So if I'm being redundant, we can move on too.
Well, when we go through our agriculture committee, the new website that has a lot of information about the committee and some of the stuff that we've done. So maybe we can and discuss that at that time. Linda Painter is here, and she's ready to present. I'm not sure. She also has to jump on to the scenic road, to the town council to discuss, there's a public hearing for a scenic road application. So maybe I will have her unmute herself. And if we could just move the new business item
Yeah,
before
so
old
she'll get
business.
called to both meetings at the same time. I'm cool with that. Yeah.
Yeah. You ready, Linda? There she is.
Everybody. So as Jen mentioned, I'm doing double duty. So I have the council muted on another screen. It was actually not a public hearing. I just have to be there for the discussion to answer questions. So
Oh, sorry.
I think they're going to be a while. They're in the middle of the superintendent's presentation, but thank you for having me here this evening. So the reason I'm visiting with you all is to talk about cannabis or marijuana. So as you all know, the state legalized recreational use of marijuana earlier this year during a special session in the summer. And in anticipation of that, the Planning and Zoning Commission adopted a 9-month moratorium on any types of cannabis establishments in Mansfield. They did that really to get ahead of the curve and make sure that they had time once the legislation was finalized to understand what it meant and to think about the regulations related to the cultivation and sale of cannabis in town. So one of the attachments I think Jen has given you is an approach and framework. And this has been worked on with the Regulatory Review Committee, as well as the commission as a whole. And what we are doing now is taking this out to certain committees that we think may have an interest just based on your areas of focus for feedback. And the feedback that we get from these meetings will be given to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Town Council. We're hoping to do a joint special meeting of both bodies so that they can better understand this and come up with or finalize the approach that they want to take in terms of regulations. So the schedule that you'll see on your screen, thank you, Jen, for sharing that. Just kind of gives you the outline. So right now we're in the middle of the advisory committee process. I met with town university relations earlier today. Tonight is agriculture. And then I believe we have Economic Development Commission and the Mansfield Downtown Partnership coming up in the next couple of weeks. So the first part of the memo that I gave you really kind of just goes through a few highlights in terms of the big points. And I do want to say this special act is over 300 pages long. It is very dense. There's a lot of detail in there regarding all of the different rules that apply to the different types of establishments. So the first bullet point there, I'm not going to read through all of these, but the first one I think is something your committee will find interesting. The state specifically amended the definition of agriculture to say it does not include the cultivation of cannabis. So that is something. So for anyone who is thinking, oh my goodness, we're going to have people growing cannabis town-wide in fields, they specifically said this is not agriculture. So this is they've taken that out. Cannabis establishments themselves are a wide range of activities that include everything from cultivation to sale to transport and delivery. So one of the things you'll see as we get further down in the document is kind of the Planning and Zoning Commission has looked at each type of cannabis establishment and said, all right, how do we want to try to approach this? A couple of other points, retailers. So if you are just going to sell recreational marijuana, you are considered to be a retailer under the new statute. If you are selling medical marijuana, you're a dispensary, and we do have one dispensary in town. And if you are doing both, so you basically have your license to sell for medical purposes and for recreational purposes, then you're a hybrid retailer. Per the statute, we based on our population, we can only have one retailer. So if you're not selling, don't have your license as a dispensary, you can only have one entity that is just selling recreational marijuana, that is not a hybrid with a dispensary. We are also limited to one, what they call micro cultivator. So micro cultivators have to be at least 2,000 square feet of grow area, and not more than, I believe it is 10,000 square feet. I'm doing this from memory right now. And you can actually petition the Commissioner of Consumer Protection every year for an increase of 5,000 square feet until you get up to 25,000 square feet, at which point you would have to convert into a cultivator license. So as you'll see on the screen there, the voters may force a referendum. So right now, the approach we're taking is that the Town Council and the Planning and Zoning Commission will take the lead on regulating cannabis establishments. The residents themselves can say this is an important enough issue for us, and if at least 10% of registered voters petition for a referendum on whether sale of cannabis will be allowed, then we have to hold that referendum, and that referendum would trump anything that the Planning and Zoning Commission or the Town Council did. So some of the other things here I think that are summarized are probably of more interest to the council. There are some financial benefits to being a host community for a cannabis establishment. So towns do receive 3% of gross receipts from retailers. And I think that was supposed to say hybrid retailers and micro cultivators that are in the municipality. We are limited in how we can spend those funds, but there is a benefit. For those who are somewhat familiar with Massachusetts, Massachusetts has a very different provision which allowed host communities to negotiate with establishments. And so I know we've already had some comments submitted to the Planning and Zoning Commission going, oh, you should see what these communities in Massachusetts got. We are specifically prohibited from doing that. The legislature has said there's no host community agreements. This is what you get if you have one of these establishments in your town. So right now, from a land use perspective, we're really focusing on the zoning, regulating this through the zoning regulations. The statute's a little ambiguous. It's possible some of it could be done through the council, but typically this is something that we do with zoning. From a council perspective, one of the things they may want to look at is where you can actually smoke, and whether or not our current provisions cover cannabis or not with regard to actual use of it. It is specific that we cannot, we can regulate, I believe, smoking, but not consumption. So if you want to have a brownie, you are allowed to be served a brownie, and we cannot stop that. So that is an overview of just kind of the general provisions. In terms of the different types of establishments, I think the ones that you are going to be the most interested in from your committee, and I'm happy to go through all of them, are basically related to cultivation. And there are three uses or establishment types that relate to that. One is a producer, and the producer is the term and definition that was originally adopted when the state legalized medical use of marijuana. Then we have cultivators. So cultivators are where you have over 15,000 square feet or more of grow space. And then micro cultivators, which, as I said, was that 2,000 to 10,000 square foot range. The Regulatory Review Committee in the commission, every meeting I'm in, the chair, and he did this afternoon, so I'm just going to start saying this, he's like, we're leaning towards not allowing cultivation. So that's there's, as you can see in the table, before they consider cultivation, they really want to understand the potential odor impacts. So they have asked us to reach out to communities that actually have production facilities for medical marijuana in the state to see if we can get a tour, as well as just talking to the communities themselves to see what types of impacts they have seen from having those grow facilities in their communities. And so what you see for locations here is basically if they feel they can get over that hurdle of potential impacts, particularly with regard to odor, and there may be other ones after we have discussions with the facilities, after we have discussions with the communities, is that the locations that they might consider for cultivation are the Planned Business 1 district, which is down by Eastbrook Mall. Route 1 on 195, the Planned Business 3 district, which is Four Corners, and the institutional district. So those are really the three that they're looking at. And I will say, I think part of that, and we haven't even gotten to this point, my guess is if they go there, they probably are going to want it to have public water and sewer so that you're not relying. I have no idea how much water usage this is, but obviously these can be kind of intensive facilities. And, again, I've gone through some of the white papers prepared by other communities. I've tried to skim through the requirements. From what I've seen, I think we're talking about enclosed buildings here. These are not fields. This isn't, you're dealing with security, you're dealing with other issues. So this is really, and I think that may be one of the reasons they also took this out of agriculture. This is not what people necessarily think of as being agriculture. So those are the cultivation uses. And I think that this is something where you as the agriculture committee, while it's not technically an agricultural use by statute, you obviously are familiar with growing things, and the commission would like to get your input. In terms of retail sales, we're basically treating hybrid retailers and retailers the same and looking at saying Planned Business 1, again, Eastbrook Mall, Four Corners. And then there are two additional locations for those, which are the Perkins Corner area, which is our Planned Business 5 district, and the Planned Business 4, which is King Hill Road, North Eagleville Road, adjacent to the UConn campus. So one of the requirements of state statutes when it comes to a straight retailer, again, not a hybrid, not a dispensary, but for a straight retailer, they do require a special permit. So which is interesting because typically it says towns can require it. In this case, they actually specify that you can only do it through a special permit. Some of the things that the commission is looking for input on is whether or not we should be considering retailers and hybrid retailers in the downtown. So the special design district for Store Center, as well as the reason you see the Planned Business 2 listed there is that is where you have Stores Commons and University Plaza, where Stores Center wraps around those two properties. Couple other items, and this is something that we are specifically authorized by statute to do, is to look at minimum separation distances from schools, childcare, churches, other houses of worship. Basically the same thing you can do for alcohol, you can do when it comes to cannabis establishments. So, and then last but not least, day and hour restrictions. And what the commission discussed was basically find out what consumer protection limits your alcohol sales to, and that is what we should be limiting cannabis sales to. And then the last group of uses that you'll see in the chart has to do with essentially taking cannabis and transforming it into something else. So whether it's food or beverages or other products or packaging it. So for those uses, anything having to do with cannabis, as you can see here, would be special permit. And very similar to the districts that we talked about for retail, with the addition, so Eastbrook Mall, Four Corners, Perkins Corner, and then the institutional zones for these. And same thing for a delivery service. I will note, even if a town were to prohibit cannabis establishments from being located in the community, we are not allowed to prohibit anyone from delivering or transporting cannabis to someone in the community. So we can say, nope, we don't want to sell it here. It does not mean that somebody else you can't buy it and have it delivered to you. They are also recommending that we include cannabis establishments in the list of prohibited home occupations. So no, you will not be, with the exception of what you are allowed to grow for personal use, you will not be having a cottage kitchen enterprise if this proposal moves forward for food and beverage manufacturing with cannabis. I think those are the highlights. And then, laboratories, wherever we would allow a research laboratory. And the laboratory they're describing here is really to do the testing to make sure that you're meeting state requirements in terms of the actual product. So, And then dispensaries, one thing I didn't say is those would be permitted by right in existing buildings, and then a site plan approval for new construction. Again, we treat those as office today. They're not seen as being as intensive of a use. One thing that I think we don't know, and I know Jen has mentioned that, when she was in California recently, there are a lot of nice storefronts where you just, they're cute. You don't know what it is. I'm curious to see what the state regulations are going to be for these establishments, because I think if you're familiar with Nature's Medicine, you will see bars over the windows. I mean, that is a very secure facility, and the state specified literally, I think, the greatest, the type of door that they had to have. So there's a lot of security involved with that, and we'll be interested to see whether that is similar to what they require for retail establishments and cultivation.
So just a little for this, I'm not sure how many of you know, the different levels of discretion that the Planning and Zoning Commission has. So permitted as of right would mean like you're coming in, you want to have a, if you're just getting a zoning permit, like you would if you were doing an addition to your home, and that would be signed off administratively. And then site plan review. Do you want to just go over site plan review and special permit, Linda, just real like 30 seconds?
So yes, as Jen said, permitted as of right is administrative. There's no board or commission involvement in that, and that is reserved under this proposal to existing buildings. So if you want to move into an existing space in an existing building with a dispensary, then we would let you do that. A site plan approval, essentially it goes before the commission. They can require a public hearing, but in terms of discretion, is if you meet the requirements, they have to approve it. They can't deny it if you meet all of the requirements for it. A special permit is where they have some discretion, because that's where there are some more qualitative criteria and that they're looking at in terms of the impacts that a use might have. And so they do have the ability to deny special permits if you're not meeting not only the objective criteria such as a setback requirement or building height, but they can look at the impacts on the surrounding area and determine that it's not an appropriate location for that specific use. So it's more of a case-by-case basis with a special permit.
Linda, I have a really naive zoning question, and that is, you get these things, especially like this, which is all new. Is there any kind of a lasso in any zoning history of being able to say, oh, this turned out way different from what we expected? Not because they didn't follow all of our little rules, but because we couldn't predict everything that we might have predicted. So help me out.
So that's why you see zoning revisions. So it's, you do the best that you can, and then you make adjustments. Unfortunately, if something is permitted through the special permit process, then once that permit is approved, you can't change it. But you can't revoke it. You can't change conditions under which it was issued, but you can learn and make adjustments. And I think I would say that one of the things that I've seen in the 10 years I've been here, alcohol is a good example. Our alcohol regulations, I don't think underwent a lot of changes from the time that we adopted them in the, I want to say 1960s to, the 2010s. And when we were suggesting adding brew pubs just to the list, all we wanted to do was add brew pubs because we had we thought we might be getting one. We wanted to be proactive. The commission actually started reading the regulations and went, why does it say this? Why does it say that? Why are we doing this? And they basically got rid of all of it and just said, if you have a use that's permitted, such as if we allow retail and you want to sell alcohol and you get your state license, then sell alcohol. If you have a restaurant, you shouldn't have to come to us for a special permit to sell wine in a restaurant. So I think one of the things you can see it go both ways, where you may tighten up on things that you say, oh, maybe we need to do a little more. And you may also loosen up where you go, oh, you know what? We've done this for a few years now, and we're not seeing issues.
But is there anywhere across the land, you know, in your zoning periodicals that you must get, cases or situations or the ability to basically, I don't really mean renege on a permit, but I do mean kind of that's not where we expected this to go, and it were not even, that's not a place where we ever knew this would go, and that's not okay with us. So therefore,
You know,
you can't do this or that or
I
whatever.
think some of that
I mean,
some of
the-
that
the
comes up
thinking-
as we look at, whenever we're doing regulations, we always look at what other communities are doing. You know, we don't try to reinvent the wheel. We look at other communities that have done this. Obviously, you know, because especially in this case, I think one of the things we'll probably do is look out to states that have had this in place for a while. And obviously every state and the way they've approached this is different. But I think in the states that have been doing this for longer, those communities are going to have more experience in saying, oh yeah, that, you know, we tried this, we didn't anticipate, you know, we did X, we didn't anticipate Y, we've made adjustments so that, you know, there's been more time as
But
opposed
my
to.
point is, so why can continue? Why can he's,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Unless Y is a direct violation of the actual special permit in some way, shape, or form. You know, but that's true of any, you know, once you issue that permit, you issue it with conditions. And if things don't turn out the way you thought they would, you're basically living with that.
Okay, thanks.
And I would also say, Chris, I think that's why there's a lot of concern about on the cultivation side from members of the commission.
So you need from the committee just sort of feedback on this framework, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, just feedback that we can provide to the Planning and Zoning Commission and Town Council. Obviously, what we're trying to do is before we sit down and draft regulations is to say, okay, this is the direction we're thinking about going, so that we have comments from committees before we start drafting regulations. What we don't want to do is say, you know, is basically come to you with a full package of regulations and then have you say, why did you ever consider cultivation in these districts? Like, you know, so we're trying to take this kind of one step at a time, and instead of giving you a package of regulations saying, here's the way we're thinking about dealing with it. Here are the locations we're thinking. Here are some of the restrictions that might be placed on these types of establishments. You know, and you could come back and say, we don't think you should allow any of them. You know, that's feedback. Or, you know, we think that we really should consider cultivation. I mean, it's really, again, you know, from your committee's perspective, what do you think are things that, you know, we need to look at? Are there conditions that we should be thinking about that we're not at this point? Things of that nature.
Alex, you still want to move here?
Yeah, absolutely. We're good.
I mean, basically what you're saying is no cultivation. Any kind of retailer, hybrid retailer with like production, you know, producing or kind of processing, all of that would be a special permit and would be in our, what we call our smart growth areas, like our Four Corners, Store Center, Eastbrook Mall area.
Yeah, with the exception of Perkins Corner. So that.
Right.
Yep.
So more the areas where we have public water and sewer. And the only thing that would really just be administrative would be a dispensary facility.
Correct. In an
So-
existing building.
In an existing building. Everything else is going to have a lot of discretion, a public hearing. It would probably get referred out to, it will get referred out to several committees to look at traffic and lighting and noise and odor and all of the things that people.
And again, I would say, you know, as Paul was saying, he's like, we're leaning towards no cultivation. But I think the reason for that lean is because they are very uncertain of the impacts. And that's why what you see right now is kind of a question mark of, until they have a better understanding of what the odors associated with cultivation are and the impacts on the communities, they don't want to take that risk.
And you were saying that you're thinking it's only going to be in-house, so you have to be in a house. They won't allow farm production.
Right. I believe and again,
I know
we'll
I
have to,
use farm loosely.
right. We'll have to double check that, but basically you're talking about interior grow spaces, especially since especially since they've literally talked about square feet, which is something you typically more talk about with buildings than you do with farms. In terms, farms, we would more talk about acreage of production, whereas they're talking about square footage of grow space, which typically tells me this is, buildings. And I will say, there are a few production facilities for medical marijuana in Connecticut. So again, we're going to reach out to those communities and hopefully try and get a tour of one of those facilities. The ones that I've seen are all buildings. It's all interior.
Yeah, probably because of safety and
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any strong opinions? I will say Town University Relations said we need to think about this and get back to you. That was the comment this afternoon. So they're gonna discuss it further. And again, this is not the last opportunity to comment. We just wanted to see if there are any strong feelings from any committees before we push forward.
Well, you're asked about committee opinion, and we haven't had a chance to talk about it as committee. Do you want personal opinion?
Sure.
But you can talk about it as a committee and
Yeah.
start with a personal opinion and then make it a committee opinion, I guess, right?
I think it's fascinating. First of all, the state, peeled it off of agriculture. That's really fascinating, and the protections that offers. But I'm very much in favor of this odor, awareness and kind of tiptoeing around that as a concern. But I think the annoying part to that is, over time, this may, the odor may not be an issue with the same plant, with hybridization and so forth. They'll develop a plant. Hey, here's a noxious quality to this thing. Let's breed it out of it, or however it's done. And now we've got cannabis that we can grow that doesn't smell so badly. So I would want to think that I wouldn't be surprised if there is some, in those who study olfactory issues, that there are, measurements of odor and smell and so forth and noxiousness that might be a piece of the, if not legislation, at least somehow in the zoning. So it's not just as a knee-jerk thing rejected because it's called this plant. But I fully agree that I actually find the smell when it's smoked really awful. So that would be a reason to restrict the use of it, to me. So, even as much as, cigarettes, tobacco.
And I have a question, and excuse my ignorance. Is this including cannabis that doesn't have the THC level, or is this for all in that broad category?
There's a really, really detailed definition of cannabis, which I'm not, Jen, it looks like Jen's going to try and pull it up. I honestly am not an expert on this, which one of the things that we literally took and gave to the Planning and Zoning Commission was a white paper from the Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments and a brochure from the town of Southbury, because to give them their due, they kind of summarize things, which was very helpful, because with 300 pages, If you're referring to hemp, hemp is classified separately from cannabis. So, that's regulated separately by the state.
I was referring to the cannabis that like UConn has done research on, where they've bred out the THC levels. That's what I was referring. I was wondering if this is included in that category.
So Lori, when Suresh has done his, Suresh Gamire, our vegetable crop extension educator, has done his work with farmers growing hemp, and he calls it hemp. And then it's also called cannabis, and I can't explain that. But one of the issues his farmers he was working in ran into, he told me, was I think it's like a 0.7% level. And if they go over that, they can't sell it or something. And they don't know if it's over it until they're done growing it and sold it.
Yeah, it gets
And-
hot, right? It turns hot. Yes.
But like you, I don't know a whole lot about it, other than I also agree with Chris. I hate the smell of it being smoked.
Yeah, and I was just very, very curious, because there is a big difference from, like, I would think a UConn standpoint, growers, there might be pushback. I'm not talking, I can't talk for UConn, but just knowing like the classes that are given and different things that they do to, breed out the THC, if this was captured under that umbrella.
I know Jerry Berkowitz has come to Town of Mansfield meetings in the past before, and I mean, if we need to explore any of that further, Jerry or Yi Lee or Jess LaBelle or Suresh would be the ones to talk to, because they are experts.
I would
Yeah.
think that they would want to see this, definitely. Yeah.
Linda, are any of those people familiar with this, or have they been, has the zoning commission talked to them at all, or have you? Any of those
Not
people?
at this point.
Okay.
This was based solely on, again, I know from,
Independent.
it was, I think the odor, quite frankly, came up during, a discussion of hemp. And so they're very sensitive to it. And, that's why they said, before, if we were to consider it, they want to understand what they're dealing with beforehand. We did not get into discussions of THC levels, because all of that is regulated. And as I apologize, I got 3 devices going, two with meetings, one with
You're amazing. You're amazing.
attachments. And so I'm literally trying to find the presentation where I have the definition of marijuana.
Well, it's so funny. It's kind of like the definition of porn, I can't give it to you, but I know it when I see it. And I feel that way about this. I can't give it to you, but I know it when I smell it and don't like it. And that's that to me is the main issue, environment, or, I want to say
unfortunately, I think my presentation has the definition of marijuana is in a different statute.
I'm pulling that up.
That's the one issue. As long as there's a lot of cross references to other statutes. So
Yeah.
it just makes it even more complicated, because it's not all in one place.
Well, Stacy and Jen, I think it would be sensible for us to confer with one of these people that you're talking about. Just have them come to our next meeting if that's doable. What's your timeline, Linda?
So originally, what we were hoping to do is to get feedback from committees in October. We were holding off on the joint meeting with the commission and the town council because we have an election coming up. So what we didn't want to do was start a discussion on this topic, and then I have no idea what the slates are or how much membership is going to change.
Yeah.
But we wanted to basically be starting with, the body that we'll have for the next 2 years for the council, and then for the commission, they have staggered 6-year terms, but we thought it would be easier. So we're probably looking at mid-November. So you may still have an opportunity at your next meeting to get feedback, and we have not scheduled that special meeting. If we have to, we can push back to December for that. Our deadline is March 21st of 22 is when the moratorium expires. So we built ourselves a cushion in here. The council did ask that when we had proposed the moratorium and they discussed that, there were some council members asking us to please, move this as quickly as we can and not just sit back and run out the clock.
So
I mean, are you, Chris, are you to invite the people that Stacy was talking about? It seems like that's more of an issue related to cultivation, not, and I think the Planning and Zoning Commission is really wanting to take it slow with that. So are you uncomfortable with like retail, the dispensary or hybrid or retail establishment? Or because I don't know, we'd want to, if they were to come, they would need to have very specific questions. I'm sure they could talk all day long about odor, but if we're not going to be growing it here, then why do we want to, it would just sort of be an academic exercise.
Good point.
Could I offer up maybe a potential resource by chance? Is I actually used to do consulting for Curaleaf, which is a very, very large cannabis grower.
Right.
And they deal in, they sell to dispensaries, they do delivery to home, they do medical only, and all of that. So what I could ask is if you guys want to make a list, maybe of poignant questions, I could reach out to some of the gentlemen I worked with and pose the question of, how do you mitigate odor? How did you handle maybe distribution? What are issues you've seen? Because they sell in many parts of the country. I think if you go on their website, they list all the states they sell in. It's a different perspective for sure. But I didn't know if that might be helpful, just because I have a direct resource.
Well, Linda, you had basically said that you wanted us to consider this. I have here thinking of the approach, the framework is what you mentioned. You wanted feedback related to the framework. So that's kind of what we're after.
Yeah.
Whether it's just our total layperson opinions or, Alex, that's a wonderful offer, but I'm not really in a position to say, great, Stacy is. It's still, I think they need to be focused on that, which kind of responds to your question, Jennifer. What should they be talking about? They should be talking about the framework, but I'm interested in that because there's so much we don't know.
Well, I think right now, what you're, if you look at the retailer, hybrid, or dispensary, to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Linda, but that's like they're not going to be smells, odors related to that, right? They're just going to be buying it. And
yeah, so for dispensaries and retail, the odor concern is the growing. It's the cultivation.
So we're past that.
And that's
I'm past that.
Yeah.
I'm thinking you want us to look at the framework. That's what you said.
Yep.
So considering the framework, what have we missed? What are we stupid still about? And we need to be more aware of. And if Alex's people have ideas, if
I think it's the discretion it's the level of discretion, right? So are you comfortable with a dispensary going in a as just through a pure zoning permit in an existing building in specific zones?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's looking at the framework. The package includes a zoning map to say, does this make sense in terms of where these different types of establishments are being considered? And I would say, and for the time being, I would include cultivation if for no other reason that while they're leaning towards no, that it's not they didn't get to completely prohibit that at this point. We're leaning towards it, but they're open to information in terms of what the impacts of those grow facilities are.
It is, again, it's funny to me. It's specifically peeled out of agriculture definition, and you're bringing it to us, and so it's just like,
it's peeled out of agriculture.
Okay to sell it at the Red Barn Creamery thing, is that what it's about?
No, I think I'm going to take a guess here. Again, I was not part of drafting this legislation. You know, we kind of, it was forever changing. And I can tell you, one of the questions I have is, why is it that a micro cultivator is like 2,000 to 25,000 square feet, but a cultivator starts at 15? I was like, I don't like, some of the numbers don't add up. I don't know if that was intentional, just to allow micro cultivators to grow with, to expand their business without having to switch over to a cultivator license right away. Or if that was just in all of the drafting they were doing, somebody missed that they changed one number and didn't change another. I have no idea if it was intentional or inadvertent. I think with the agriculture, my read on that would be that so many towns have agriculture by right, that I think there would be a concern. And I know that we heard this, it through other venues. Oh, if you want to grow hemp, then you automatically want to grow marijuana. That's just going to be this automatic transition, and there's going to be nothing. So there's a part of me that thinks they may have taken, even while it deals with growing of plants, that they took it out of agriculture as a way to kind of forestall concerns that people are going to go, oh, this is just going to be everywhere. Because if we call it an agricultural use.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I wasn't part of the drafting of it, so I could not say that for certain.
So let me ask you in another way. What kind of response comment would you expect from our committee? Might you expect, as a for example, if we gave you some feedback? What might be?
I think if you gave feedback, it could be on, it could be on the locations. It could be on, should we be considering cultivation, or do you share the concerns and say, well, maybe we start out and we just look at sales, and cultivation is something we tackle later, if we get a better sense. It could be on conditions that you think would be valuable. And, some of that is from your committee expertise. And, obviously when you're serving on committees, your personal thoughts are going to come through. And that happens with all committees. And you have a discussion and talk about, okay, should this be, as Jen said, should dispensaries be by right, administrative, where they just go in, or do we think we need to, a process where it's on an agenda and the public can have a public hearing on it, which is your special permit. So it's really, it's kind of, are they going in the right direction, or are we just, no, you need to be looking at, we don't think we should be doing sales. We don't think we should do cultivation, or if you're going to do this, here are other things we'd like to see as conditions if you can do it. So, because ultimately at the end of the day, when we do this, the town attorney will be involved to make sure that whatever we put into regulations or something that we have the authorization to do by statute.
Okay.
I would be kind of curious what Alex's contacts say about the business in general, like where these are, how many are in a town. I mean, that kind of information may, if they're distributing it and everything, they may have insights that all of us hadn't considered.
Yeah, I mean, they just kind of face it at such a large scale because they deal with so many states. And again, they deal in both the retailing of it directly, as well as the actual cultivation and distribution. And my consulting for them specifically was actually handling all of their compliance and quality management systems. So I know for a fact that there is a way to mitigate odor to a controllable state. And again, I'm not advocating in any sense, but they're a group that is very professional, and I know they're quite pleasant to work with, and they might just be able to answer questions objectively in terms of this has been our experience in this, or subjectively of this has been our experience and our exposure. And I am sure they've seen kickback many a time. And what did that consist of? Because that might be something that we did not think of, kind of thing.
I got a message from Terry that said, I think the Ag Committee should learn more about what the town is considering. At this point, there's not enough known about the critical points to make a significant conclusion. I suggest we learn more. Is there an overview document that we can review prior to providing significant input? So I guess, Linda, that would really be like a draft regulations, or, I mean, right now we did include the white paper from CCOG, the Southbury brochure, and then the framework, which is kind of
Right.
talking about what the establishment type is and where it would be. Are we going to prohibit it? Are we going to allow it? If we are going to allow it, where are we going to, in what locations? And then how are we going to
Right.
condition it or restrict it? So I think,
So that was intentional to give you that level of detail, because again, writing regulations is an intensive process. And what we didn't want to do is go through and write all of the regulations and then have people go, what were you thinking? Why did you even bother? We don't think you should do this at all. Or, don't do it in this location. So we're trying to get feedback before we write the regulations. But sometimes it's tough to understand.
I think so you're scheduled to have a meeting in November. You all have this information that's pretty detailed in your packets. And I think maybe, you certainly are welcome to email Linda or me prior to the meeting as individuals, or you can come together as a committee and talk about it again in November. And I'm sure the regulations will be written and approved by then, right, Linda? Or maybe they will be.
We were not planning on writing regulations until after
Right.
the feedback on the framework was given to the council and the Planning and Zoning Commission, so they could say, yes, this is the approach we want to take. And then we would draft regulations accordingly when they.
So does this fit within the time frame that you've
Yeah,
laid
they
out?
can meet. Again, we don't have a meeting set up yet in November. And again, my first meeting on this was earlier today, and Town Gown just kind of sat there and went, we need to
Yeah, it's a lot
talk
to
about
digest.
this. And especially from the university's perspective, because, the representatives they have on that committee are sitting there going, yeah, we can't establish a university policy on whether we want a separation distance, just the individuals on that committee. They're like, we have to go back and talk to people to come back with what the university thinks about this. So I think that the schedule we put together was aggressive, but we did build in, again, we built in a cushion for ourselves, just knowing that when we get to March, we have to have this. The other thing that we had built in was not having a public hearing in January, given that a lot of our population sometimes is off in January. We tend to take flack from the university community if we adopt major regulations when they're not in session. So we specifically anticipated a public hearing. I think we scheduled it for the beginning of February, but again, that can slip.
Jennifer, our next meeting's November 9th, and
Yeah, so
election day is November 2nd. So that would be a tight turnaround for the new town council, whoever's, if they
Yeah, no,
have-
they will be right. So we would be doing a special meeting. It wouldn't be till after the 9th anyway. So, because they'll have their first organizational meeting presumably on November 8th.
And I think, as Terry just said something in the chat, it said, let's be reminded of the mandate of the Agriculture Committee. That may help us to determine what part of these new topics is ours to consider. So, going back to the charge, basically you're charged with advising the town council and other elected bodies with issues related to agriculture. So this is a little weird because cannabis is no longer within that definition, but I think, as Linda said, it's so that it's just not permitted as of right as any other crop would be. So I guess the main issues are how you want to handle, or if you want to comment on cultivation, I guess, because that's the growing of things. And if you're in agreement with it, with what it states in the framework that said the regulatory review committee members would like a tour of an existing production facility to learn more about odors before making a final recommendation. So I think they want to take it slow on the cultivation side. And I guess is that, I think probably you guys could comment on that now, if you agree with that tact, or you want to have them speed it up. Because right now they want to take it slow. If anyone else feels that they should really be focusing in on cultivation, I think now would be the time to offer that guidance. Because we have time to explore cultivation. So, and this is new within the state. So unless people know that, feel strongly that this should be, the cultivation should really be, we should be permitting this. And then we'd have to do more research on how.
I'm okay with the slow approach.
I think, and since everything's new, that slow is probably the best. Slow approach.
All right. Well, thank you for having me this evening. If you don't have any other questions, I am going to switch over and see where the council is in their agenda.
Great.
If you want to keep your bragging rights, Linda, you can just keep us on. So you can say you're still on 3 meetings or whatever.
2 meetings, 3 devices.
Okay.
One was just pulling up documents so that I could, actually 4. I was using my phone too.
Okay.
We appreciate you coming to and sharing this information with us and your work on behalf of the town.
No problem. I'm always happy to come visit with you guys. So keep up the great work.
Thanks, Linda.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Linda.
So, Chris, for the minutes, Terry said he agrees. He also likes the approach of taking it slow. He said, personally, he would not like to see cultivation in Mansfield.
Okay, my minutes, because I'm taking notes, and I think minutes should be tight, are that Linda Painter noted the approach and framework and is looking for feedback, period.
And I think, there were several members that spoke about cultivation, and that you were I think maybe just
But
say.
the cultivation's out of the game. I mean, isn't it?
No, it says per the framework, their proposal is that they want to take it slow. And I guess the question for this committee is, because you guys are, involved with the growing of things, is there a reason that they should not take this slowly and really start tackling how to manage cultivation of cannabis / marijuana? And I heard from Stacy and Melissa and Terry that they're good with taking it slow. I didn't hear from Lori or you, Chris, I don't think.
I think I at this point, I'm just going to refrain. I'd like to, look at the items more, and, being a quasi public person in the town as a teacher, I'd like to just refrain from, until I read more about it and whatnot.
This is confusing, right? Because you're talking about, this is where zoning gets kind of, this committee doesn't really deal a lot with that, but you've got, you're dealing with things like, can you sell it? So that, like, if you take the marijuana cannabis, can you sell a can of jam? Because you're just talking about the actual item, right? So, and there's going to be theoretically a lot of demand for that item. So that's when planning and zoning has to look at traffic and hours of operation and light and noise and location. But I think in terms of cultivation, we're not sure what this is going to be like to grow. And so that's where regulatory review is saying, let's take a step back and not focus in on that quite yet, but we will allow it to be sold, a hybrid retailer, and different establishment types, if that makes sense.
The document, those 7 pages that were there that she brought, that was the attachment, that's what she was looking for review on. And I guess I got a little bit confused because there is cultivation in there, even though it's checked that they might might consider taking it off. So the document is all inclusive. It has a dispensary and it also has the cultivation. So theoretically speaking, if they're asking for us to review that document and give feedback, both pieces are on there. So how can you, and how can I look at one without looking at the other in theory, if it's on the same document, and that's going to be put in front of people? And
Right.
that's the only place where I'm a little bit confused, because if they want to go slow, that's fine, but you have them both on there. So it's, I would assume, and it's a very sensitive topic because some people are way on the other side and some people are way on the opposite side. If you're having it on the document, it's going to come up. There has to be some sort of either it gets tabled and there's two separate documents, one dealing with that, and one dealing with the dispensary and the locations in to like over Eastbrook Mall area or what have you, is a total separate issue, but they're on that same form. So I guess that's where I get a little bit confused. If we're talking about only one part of that, or are we?
I think you could separate that out. To Terry's point, is to look at what the charge of the agriculture committee is, and that you all really look at growing of items. You don't look at separation distance, you don't look at lighting and noise and where things are sited. So you could say that you're just going to comment on the cultivation portion and then speak to whether or not, it's on that first page.
And the fact that now it's not actually being considered an agricultural crop, that brings into question, not to be the devil's advocate,
Yeah,
Right.
well then, do we even have a voice?
that's my opinion. Yeah.
Do we even have a voice if they are not considering, and is that a state statute or that's been mandated?
Yes.
Or is that that's a state statute, correct?
Yep.
I haven't read it. I haven't gone to this Connecticut, state's website, but if it's not considered an agriculture product, how do we even have, and like I said, I don't mean to be devil's advocate, any say? What is it then? Is it a medical product? Is it, what is
They
it
moved
then?
it to consumer protection.
You see what I'm
so it's-
saying?
Yeah.
But yes, and it will still be supported by agricultural specialists. So it's that gray area. So I understand why Linda brought it to us, because even though state says it's not agriculture, they're still going to require agricultural support.
Absolutely. It does. It does. So, I'm just playing devil's advocate here because it
No,
seems
it's kind of a hard thing to get our head around, because it is not, it was, it
at
does,
least the first thought.
agriculture farming do not include the cultivation of cannabis. So, but yet it's going to be grown.
I
Right.
assume that the state did that just so they could keep control over it better than if
Yeah.
it were considered
Right.
an agricultural product. Yeah.
Right.
And that's the only reason they pulled it out, is so that they could specifically look at it by itself.
Yeah.
And I thought she also emphasized it was the as of right stuff. Where you can't just grow it because I'm a farm, therefore I can grow things, therefore I can grow this thing.
Well, because field crops in most, if not all towns, field crops are permitted as of right. So what this statute is saying is that cannabis is a special kind of crop, and so they don't want it to be lumped in to this very broad definition of agriculture. That if you've ever tried to regulate like wetlands, you can see that agriculture is kind of a catch-all. So they didn't want it to be, they wanted it to have some more control, as to Melissa's point.
Yeah, I think they're just like making it so that you can't just plant it anywhere you feel like it. Like they
Right.
want to say it has to be in a building where, odor can be controlled, or places where,
Safe.
safe places where it'd be locked up or whatever.
All right.
So we all have some homework and some thinking to do, just keep the packet and all those attachments, and we can revisit this at our November meeting. Feel free to reach out to Jennifer or Linda before that meeting with questions. Just the one, because of FOIA, Freedom of Information, we can't email the entire committee. If you have an idea or thought, please wait till the next committee meeting and just send it individually to Jennifer or Linda. And then we can discuss it as a group at our next meeting. Unless anybody has anything else on that, I'll jump back up to old business with communication and marketing initiatives. So we have started, we had something in two things, the farmer to family food boxes and our agricultural update in the last town newsletter. We've provided some social media posts to the town. Jennifer, I'm not sure if she started, don't actually go on my social.
Yeah, I
media
think she
very
has
often.
not. I've got to work with her that, yes, so I will work with Margaret on that. Margaret is she's a hot commodity. I'm not sure if that's an appropriate way to, her time is very in demand, I guess.
And I know Melissa was gonna work on some other social media posts as her time allows. So we're trying to get agricultural messages out there. Basically, when we started doing this, we were talking about raising awareness about agriculture in the town. So the first post kind of went back to the being a good neighbor, the information from the advocate that was in the newsletter. We've got the Dear Mansfield Agriculture series that Molly had worked on for us after she'd done the Molly Dean with her photography work. So that'll be in some of the social media posts. Jude Ludville, one of our former committee members, wrote an article which I need to send to Neighbors Paper. And I did send something to Mansfield Connections. They didn't publish it this time, but we'll see if it gets into the next issue. And we need additional content. So if there are things that if every committee member or most committee members wanted to do something towards this, just raising awareness about agriculture. Alex, if you have ideas, because this is an area you're already working in, please jump in and tell us as well. We basically have been talking as a committee about wanting to educate the community more about agriculture and everything that it does. And we have the Taste of Mansfield initiative. So we have a lot of food related initiatives. And one thing we had talked about at our last meeting was we have a couple nurseries in town, the Tri-County Nursery, Ledgecrest, a couple Christmas tree farms. They don't always get recognized. So we were trying to bring them in a little bit more too, in addition to our food related outreach.
No, I mean, that's very cool. I mean, I'll definitely think on it. I mean, the biggest thing that I've seen as far as outreach or getting, feedback is targeting a specific population at a time, so us working with the Peace organization, it was really them who enthusiastically approached myself when I was just kind of mentioning it to a few people. I'm thinking about starting a farm. And there's a lot of pre-existing programs that are trying to do food education, but they lack maybe the resources. And I think, again, it's kind of the standard within the US right now. There's a certain disconnect from food, right? And a lot of people are trying to kind of mend that gap. So partnering with existing organizations for me has been helpful because you're also tapping into their pre-existing social networking infrastructure or their own agenda. So for us, I mean, we're personally working with, kids exposed to trauma, them working specifically with animal-based farms has been something they're trying to do because they've seen that it's yielded really positive results with handling some of the PTSD. So, that's been our experience. We are obviously going to spend more time kind of hoping to expand our reach. So I'll definitely pass on any ideas as I come across them.
Thank you. Other comments, questions, ideas? Lori, do you have any students that might be interested in doing some work towards this?
Hey,
or-
yeah. I mean, I think it'd be really cool to have like I keep thinking about like geocaching or like stamp books that could be at all the different town places of business, of agriculture. I hate to just up and volunteer a student because it seems like I hate to blame it on COVID, but it seems like, there's so much there's going on, and kids being right back, now full time to school, getting them to commit right now, is, I don't want to like say, hey, yeah, that kid will do it as an SAE project. I would love to be able to just say that, to take it on. I did forward, I forwarded that email you had sent me to my department head as well, to see if they had, put the word out there to the students, if there was anything that they wanted to do. I could certainly ask again. I know I've broached the subject with kids before and want to, I'll push it back out again, trying to get some buy-in. Sometimes you don't get the buy-in you want. Not that they don't want to do things, it's just they're very busy, it seems, with either their own stuff or sports or whatnot. So I can try again and see if we can get some student that might need an SAE project to do something.
Do you have students
I'm
that
thinking of
are,
one. What's that?
do you have any that are residents of Mansfield? There must be a few ag ed students that are Mansfield residents.
Yeah, there are. So I'd have to pull up the roster that are specifically Mansfield. We have a lot of Willimantic students. Coventry, Columbia, Ashford. There are some Mansfield students though, so I'll have to actually look and see what the roster says, for specific in-town students that might be interested. And I don't, does it have to be an in-town? You would probably want it to be an in-town student, I would assume.
Not for if they wanted to write something or create something, it doesn't need to be an in-town one, but I was thinking maybe we interview or spotlight some of the in-town students.
Yeah,
whether
I do
it's
have some students that wrote some poetry that that I did have some students write some poetry. So I mean, I could certainly, I know it's not, it's just, it has to do with plants and flowers. But might be nice to have like a spotlight page of the art side of things. I can see if I can do a spotlight or see what they're doing for their SAE, because sometimes their SAEs change like on a dime. Oh, by the way, I don't now have goats. Oh, okay. What happened to the corn? So I'll do some digging for you on that and see if I can get some. We used to do in school SAE spotlights, like we would have the students present a slideshow of their projects and they would put together like pictures. Betsy Terrell used to do that a lot, when she had the picture as the kids would talk about what they're doing, a spotlight. So we do have an FFA reporter that maybe could, we could see if we could get them and the historians together. I'm not the FFA advisor this year, so I can't really speak for him. I hate to I don't want to step on and say, yeah, we'll definitely do that without speaking to them first, because I don't really have to say.
Advisor.
Andrew Zadora, he's our natural resource. He's the advisor.
Okay, yeah, tell him it was my idea and he'll just roll his eyes and maybe say yes.
Okay. Sounds like a plan. All right. I will do that. Let me write that down. I'll text him right now.
The other, Terry was working on it, or is working on an article too, and was going to talk to some of our farmers again, because he done with me back gosh, it's been a while now, 2017 or whenever we did all the economic development, worked with the Economic Development Commission and did all the interviews. And I forgot that when I gave the other update, but Terry's also working on an article that will go towards the town newsletter or Mansfield Connections or somewhere, just so that we can keep a more regular presence. So I guess that's, you know, if we can keep things going in regularly so that where people are primed to at least think about agriculture, we can create more of a strategy as we go along and figure out what we want to do with this and what our goals are. I like Alex's idea of picking a target audience and working with them first. I think that might help us focus down and set some goals towards this, but
Yeah, that's it, actually, I think I like that idea, like maybe like a spotlight corner for homeowner or indoor gardening, or thinking of all the different, you know, age groups, like so if you have like an elderly population all the way down to little kids, or backwards, start with the little ones, how they can get interested, like ag in the classroom type thing. So you
So-
start with the little kids and work up.
Let's see, we have the town newsletter is very long, but hopefully you guys are signed up for it and are reading it. But that's bi-monthly, so it went out in October and then there'll be one in December. So we should plan to have an article in that, like just a little, what was it? 150 words that I can't remember. It's very short.
yeah, she didn't give
Like
us
100, I can't remember, but I have the template, but we should plan to just have something, you know, 6 articles. So we should get a volunteer for December and get something written for that. And that will be due the week before December, you know, like the Thanksgiving week. It needs to be ready to go. And it could be about Christmas trees, you know,
Right,
highlighting our
right.
2 Christmas tree. Well, yeah, the 2 Christmas tree farms in town.
Like a did you know, like a did you know, you
Yeah,
know,
or, you know,
about
as
that.
the holidays are upon us, and check out, we have 2 local Christmas tree farms, and if you're looking, if you buy a Christmas, if you buy a Christmas tree, you know, check it out. That's really all that has to be. And then they like snapping a picture or getting a picture from them and including that. She likes to include pictures.
This is 100, and it's a 150 word article.
Yeah, it's just, it's a real just snippet.
and I know JC Free Farm would gladly let somebody run over there and take a picture of his trees.
Yeah.
Probably the other one.
And, you know, then February, we can do maple syrup. And then April, maybe the nurseries. And then, I don't know.
Could I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Which is overall, so I'm just gonna preemptively say I'm a self-loathing millennial, so my first place is to go to the internet. Okay, like, so I apologize. But my question is the overall web presence is what exactly? For example, Instagram and kind of the social media components. TikTok has become an absurdly strong tool, as much as I hate to admit it. I avoid it like the plague, but it's there. You know, so there is. So I don't know if any of those digital assets exist presently, or something I've seen be really successful. My sister works for a public health architecture firm. They started a podcast, and they're doing extremely well with it. And they pick, to what Lori was saying, is just kind of different components. Did you know, a fun fact as just the catalyst for a conversation. All of you are extremely interesting and intelligent people, so I feel like there's a lot that could be discussed. And to Jennifer's point is, I think you could also, as you go through February, maybe maple syrup, and April, the greenhouses, you could have a section that's called With the Seasons, right? Because that's the whole value to agriculture, right? And it's this return to growing with the succession of the seasons. And I think that's like a really interesting point, right? Is, you know, we've lost the ability to eat with the season. We look for the tomato or the avocado year round. And, you know, it could be this discussion of what do you buy at what season and what do you do with it, right? And that's me being a bit biased because my whole objective is kind of food education. But I didn't know if any of those digital assets exist or any of those venues have been explored. So I don't want to be redundant on anything.
I'll talk a little bit about, we have a very, we're constrained in our website, I guess. We use a web provider called Civic Plus. And
Okay.
can you see my screen?
Mhm.
Am I showing our website?
I do not see the website.
Oh, where the
I
heck?
see Google Chrome now.
Okay, well, I got out of there. Anyways, I'll bring that up in just a minute. Stop sharing. So
We were there for a
basically,
second, Jen.
what?
We were there for a moment. You clicked on the planning and it was the planning and
Well,
Then
yeah,
you-
no, I wasn't at the place I wanted to be, but I'm here now, so I'm gonna share screen and do that. Share. So I've been
you took
wanting,
away the most important part, which is how the hell you get from one place to another on this town website. It really is challenging to find your way around. I don't know
right,
why.
so that's
it's difficult.
something that is really outside of my control, because I can only control very discrete portions of the website, and I can control the agriculture committee. So I was getting frustrated because I couldn't, you have so much information that you have done. So what I decided to do is just update your webpage. But to Chris's point, in order to find your website, you've got to go to your government, boards and committees, go to boards A through C, and then get to agriculture committee. And then I'm constrained with the type of website that I can create. You know, there's like different templates and it takes me forever. And I got this far, which I think is not terrible, except for the fact that no one can find it. So basically right now what we've got is we finally have our Dear Mansfield Agriculture slideshow, which I'd like it to be bigger and better quality, but this is the only way I know how to do it. At least you can go to the committee charge, you can tell who the members are, and then you have these resources over to the left-hand side. So until the town updates its website map, and I can get you guys over to like the Discover Mansfield homepage, which I don't know, I can't, I've asked the Downtown Partnership if I think they manage it, and it doesn't, it just hasn't gotten there. There's no one
Doesn't
person. in
inspire.
Mansfield. What?
It does not inspire.
What?
What you just showed us. The downtown thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's not something I control. So all to say is that I just felt like we should be trying to build this out, and we could add like an Instagram but someone's got to be posting, you know, that social media, it takes time and a plan.
Consuming.
And that's not something I can take on. But if, and this is basically all I could take on. But no one can really find it. So all to say, at least we have, what I have now is at least I can tell people on a brochure where to go, and they can download these brochures, which they couldn't do before. And at least, you know, they can go, I wrote Get a Taste of Mansfield, and they can go to the Taste of Mansfield website, because that's really not fine. You can't really find that either. So sorry, I'm not giving you the answer that you want, but.
No. It was more of a question because I guess I kind of assumed the answer, to be totally honest. But you know, I could be wrong. Because I do know social media takes quite a bit of time. But I was just saying is they're free tools, and their reach is just really incredible. you know, which is kind of like, you know, sad in a way, but I get it. Because you know, something I'm doing now, frankly, and the reason I asked, not to interject too much here, is for my farm, I'm actually building an app. So people can interact directly with my farm, they can order, they can monitor what I'm growing, when it'll be ready, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just Instagram and you know, TikTok and other tools that I don't even use, but even just some of the gentlemen that work for me have leveraged. We've gotten a lot of feedback just, and I haven't even started anything yet, you know, and that's kind of the interesting point. But no, the time component, I totally understand. So yeah, no, I was just curious, you know.
Yeah, no,
So,
we
yeah.
need to be doing this. It's just, we're kind of, I feel a little bit stuck. So,
Well, and we've already made all those posts, and if Margaret can't work us into, you know, we have all these Dear Mansfield agriculture slides. So if we can't get worked into the town of Mansfield social media, it might make more sense for us to pick one platform and start there with the existing content we already have and build the strategy around that and our one target audience and, you know, some simple goals that we want to start with. So what Terry and I talked about one day over ice cream, it was not a committee meeting in any way, shape, or form. We were just sitting at the dairy bar, was not wanting to lose momentum and to keep it, you know, we need to keep agriculture in people's mindset. And if we don't have some continuity to our efforts, we won't ever build that.
yeah. So what do you think would be just, I guess, getting those social media things posted, seeing if Margaret, because she only uses Facebook. So trying to see if she's willing to post those on a schedule.
Yeah, and then if the committee, I mean, we have some posts, we've got these Dear Mansfield agriculture. If everyone on this committee can agree on some target audiences and goals, do we want to consider, you know, one of our target audiences, millennials, for example, we probably need to move over to Instagram and not worry about Facebook because they probably are, our target audience isn't where we would be posting it. I know Taste of Mansfield does their Instagram page and that's done fairly well. It's definitely a strong one for UConn, both extension and our regular university. So
are you saying we would, so where would we begin? Like, would we just get an Instagram handle or?
yeah, and then start the content and make sure, feed the account, get some followers, and then have a posting schedule on that and get it all scheduled.
Maybe we should just start doing that.
There is a way to have the posts automatically go to Facebook too, I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah,
Like,
because they're
if you-
both linked now. Yeah.
They're both linked.
Yeah.
We could just do like with the community center, I can post there. So I do a scheduled post on Instagram and Facebook, the same one, which I know you're not necessarily supposed to do because it's like.
Everybody does it though, not everybody, but
I
a
know.
lot of people do it though.
I know it's not a best practice, but yeah. So, all right, how about I just try to put some time on the calendar with Margaret, and maybe could I invite you, Stacy, as well as the chair, and we could just try to get this thing maybe moving forward a little bit.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I don't know if the town has rules, UConn has rules, we need 2 full-time employees on every account. So if there's, but I think if we had a couple committee members that were, or volunteers that wanted to work on this and at least make some contributions so that, you know, say I'm one of the people and I'm having a bad week and I didn't get my scheduled post up and somebody else notices and can just jump in, or
Yeah. So I
think
guess,
it helps to have more people with buy-in.
right, that would be great. Why don't I put some time on the calendar, Stacy? And we'll talk with Margaret just to try to, because that's kind of what you do for UConn, right? I mean, you're a communication specialist for
For
extension.
extension.
So you know these things.
We even have a TikTok now.
Yeah.
Alex is right. They are all there. It needs
Yeah.
help, but we're working on it. But yeah.
Yeah.
We'll
Um,
see Stacy dancing on TikTok.
Well, my brother is now sending me all sorts of TikToks because he knows I'm trying to learn. So it's pretty entertaining. The tractors are popular. Anyone else have, it's getting late. Did anyone else have anything on communications or marketing initiatives? I kind of covered the website. But if you have other edits, there are things Jennifer can do on it. So please send them if you have ideas. Jennifer, you want to add anything on website?
Nope, just, I mean, give me feedback. I'm not a web designer, but I just used our platform and tried the best I could. So if
Well,
you don't,
I wanted to say, as you were paging through it, it looks good. You know, it's just sad that it's so challenging to find.
yeah,
But that's not your thing, as you said, and I know that. But anyway, what you've done looks good, and I certainly appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Pollinator Pathway Initiative. Jennifer, you want to fill us in since I don't think Terry can share yet?
So
Let me just say, Terry, you might be able to call in to the number as a voice and still participate on the telephone. It might.
what I have is just, I believe Terry's going to the meetings, but the next meeting is on October 27th at 5 o'clock. It's via Zoom. Ginny Walton is the Mansfield staff person that's working on that. I know they're trying to get the website down, criteria, and really start working on the map. So they've identified those key pollinator habitats that are along the pathway.
And I apologize if I saw the email and filed it already, but did we send that information? You sent that already out to all of the farmers in Mansfield, didn't you?
No,
Can we send that out and encourage them to apply if they are interested and eligible?
well, because I think that I'm not sure that the map has been, once that map and how to put your place on a map is ready to go, then we'll be ready to do that. I don't think we're at that point yet.
All right. Anything else on Pollinator Pathway? Okay, we did cannabis membership. We still have one opening for an alternate. Is that correct?
Well, we've got Nancy Ron resigned. I think we have 2 alternates. So just keep your eyes and ears out for members if people want to become a member. Alex, if you move to town, you can put your application in.
Thank you.
Yeah, you have a tent, Alex?
I do. I've actually slept on that property a few times already. So,
Okay,
yeah.
let's start.
Well, he's a landowner in Mansfield, even if he's not a resident. I don't.
I'll ask if you're interested. I'll ask. I
I
don't know
mean,
how
I
that
look
works.
like a Lorax, so I'm just one with the trees, man. You know.
Farms in Mansfield update. Jennifer, is something you wanted to cover?
Well, I wanted Alex to kind of give his update. He already did, but there's also on Pleasant Valley Road, there's a new pheasant farm. Robert Cardinal is growing or raising pheasants, and he's then selling them to game farms, I believe. So I may see if he wants to come and would you all be interested in learning about what he's doing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and Terry and I were both charged with going and making friends with him, and I know I didn't, but Terry may have. So, no offense to Robert, I just didn't get.
Yeah, no,
Reports from members and staff. Chris, this is you, and then anybody else who had something.
Okay, in the form of a report, it would be that my observations have been that our request to have the town, what did we say? Amend its the profile of the curbs along the roads has been completely ignored. That all of the curbing that I've seen is the conventional big, I'll call it bulbous, I'm sure it has a name, but a big bulbous curb rather than the so-called Cape Cod curb that we had talked about after the incidents that Stacy mentioned. And it's just proof that my adamancy does not really work or amount to anything. It's really frustrating. I think it's not a complete, but it's a significant waste of town money to put those things in. I'll say the reasons again. They get whacked by snowplows much more often. So there's the town putting in money that the town then destroys. And it's a waste of material. And I think it's excessively used in many cases as well. It requires topsoil to be put in, or at least fill. Another waste of resources and unnecessary in many cases. And I'm frankly really annoyed that Carrington we spoke with him. He was here at our meetings, I thought, unless my memory is completely shot. And now he's back in even frankly more direct control of it, and it's still going on. I am just crazy frustrated by it, basically because I think the design is foolish on its face. And then on its use for bicycle safety, it's suicidal. It's for farm equipment, it's damaging. And as I mentioned, all the other things in terms of extra topsoil needed, repair needed, it's insane. So I'm really frustrated, as I was a year and a half ago when we first brought this up.
So just to your point, Chris, is this an agriculture,
It began as an agriculture thing because Stacy had noted it happening on Mansfield City Road, and I thought it would give it enough purchase. And again, the face value sense, a common sense of doing it in an alternative way that still allows drainage, which is the proposed purpose of the things, and the edging that they desire, and the lack of erosion. They don't want the erosion, the road getting dug out from the side. I get it. But so in that sense, it has to do with agriculture. We could say it has to do with agriculture because it erodes things and it fills in streams. It has to do with agriculture because of, again, what Stacy's points was equipment, what her points were, it's equipment being broken and so forth. And it has to do with the town, and I'm not here, I'm here as a member of the public, or whatever I am, to say, what's going on? Why do we keep?
So I think let's talk about the audience. I think the main thing, if the committee wants to make so we talked to the Director of Public Works. The Director of Public Works works for the town manager, then who works for the town council. If it's an issue if my suggestion is that to raise it again with Public Works, and then I don't know why my sense is there's a reason for this. I'm not an engineer. I don't
probably
design
the
roads.
reason. Habit is probably the reason. Honestly.
And so I have no jurisdiction over how Mansfield designs its roads. That's completely not something they would ever ask me. I mean, it's just nothing I would get involved with, except for wetlands, if they're doing a new road or excavation deposition, that type of thing. So I mean, I think something in the minutes that I forward on, that if the committee wants to make a statement, that I then forward on to Public Works and then take it from there, because I can see you're frustrated, but I'm not sure how.
Because it was so completely ignored. And he didn't say, no, that's a stupid idea because of blank, 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 and blank.
But I think we sent a letter the last time, and
You
when
did.
John and Derek came to our meeting, because it was longer than a year and a half ago, Chris.
It was.
In conference room B, they said that they would install Cape Cod curbs where feasible, and I think, so in our situation, they did the second half of Mansfield City, figuring all of our farmland is on this half of Mansfield
half.
City. But
Yeah.
we do go that way for the town-owned properties on Bone Mill, and, so we hit, and with the big equipment, people already aren't always liking us because we take up our half in the middle of the road, and with those regular curbs, there's not a lot of place for us to give them back their half of the road, especially that end of Mansfield City has some tight curves where you're kind of going into it blind. You don't know who else is coming. So it is a challenge for, and we're sending out delivery trucks, the whole, not so much the home delivery trucks, but the wholesale trucks are bigger vehicles that, again, hover closer to the yellow line because of their size and the weight in them.
So would it be, can we put a statement in the minutes? Would you guys want to do a motion or something? And then I forward that to Public Works, just so that we're not, because I know John Carrington's not necessarily reading your minutes. I mean, it would only be a direct he'd have to have a direct communication, and then he could address that. So that's the only way this is going to, we can start another discussion with it, because I know there's a reason. I just don't know what that reason is.
Again, my expectation truly is that it's habit, and that's the only mold they have. They don't have one of these other molds, or it's too deep in the pile of whatever they have. I don't think there's a strong. Have you seen any in town? Are there any in town?
I don't know, but I'm not gonna. I don't think I don't want to spend time talking about it. I would like to have John Carrington here to talk about it, because it's really not something I.
Well, as far as that goes, I'm not really excited about having John Carrington come. He's heard our view on it while he was in charge of the town. He heard our view on it, and nothing happened. I'm wondering if we can, and maybe it's up to me if I'm going to be a nut job about it, but to get, I think planning and zoning ought to be tuned into it, because again, it has all these crummy effects. It's even dangerous if you're riding your lawnmower on the thing, and you happen to go too far off of it. You're suddenly, wrecked your machine, and maybe you fall off. If you have to mow your whatever. But bicyclists, if there's the Mansfield Bike Committee that might be interested in it. To me, it's just so many. There's so many places where it's like, we have the technology. Where are we? And the technology is this simple curb, or no curb at all where possible.
Can we start with taking it back to John and Derek, and because they did, the lower half of Mansfield City headed towards Pleasant Valley did get Cape Cod curbs, and that
It
was
did?
right
Okay.
after. Yes, that one did. So if you go from Stearns Road down towards Eastern, that whole stretch of Mansfield City has Cape Cod curbs. And they did that right after, and our guys love it because they can just put a wheel on it and get out of the way. So I think if we go back to John and Derek and just say, hey, it's been a couple of years, couple other things going on with the pandemic and everything. We want to revisit this and see what their response is. And then go from there. And if, depending on what their response is, we can involve other committees, but I think that needs to be a motion. And as chair, I am not allowed to make any motions.
I think it's going to be most effective if you go back to John and kind of get a stat, like Stacy said. I think, give him a chance to, he's a good guy. And I think even if the reason is what, I don't know what the reason is, but I know that they do intentional road design. It's thought out. So I'd like to hear what he has to say. I mean, I think that's the fair thing to do.
Okay. Then why don't we invite him and make that the
Well, I think,
before we
like,
do.
I guess, what is the specific question? Do you want to send me an email with the specific questions you have with the rest of the committee, and then I can forward that to him so he knows and he can come with some engineering standards or just whatever he's using? I don't know what he's using, but I'm sure there's, there's a professional association, there's road design, and he's doing it in a certain way that meets certain standards. So, and I think there's, we just have to understand why he's doing that, and then ask him if there's a way he can not do it that way, or why he's not doing that way. I just getting more information. He said they would do it where it's possible. Well, where is it possible then? Maybe that's the question.
Yeah, he did give us information at that meeting, and it's been a while, but there were some reasons. He gave specific reasons on places where he couldn't do Cape Cods.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what they were, but I remember that they made sense when he explained them.
Until you see them in the spring and they've been whacked by snowplows. Truly, I mean, you see it again and again. It's amazing. But okay. It's just surprising. There's some communities that have all
Cape
Cape
Cod.
Cod clubs, and they somehow that department survives. I don't know how they do it, but they do. So.
Well, let's bring it back up to him. Do you want to make a motion, Chris, to
Invite John. I move we invite John Carrington to the next meeting to discuss changes in curb. I don't know what. What's the? I don't understand the approach. It should just simply be policy in the.
Well, do you want to have a direct conversation with him, Chris, and then decide?
I wouldn't be able to control myself, Jennifer. You know that. Come on.
You can control yourself. I have faith in you. I think a conversation between the two of you to understand and then come up with, because really it's, I think the Agriculture Committee has said that it's better if it's Cape Cod curbing for the equipment, but I don't, I will make sure he's aware of this tomorrow. But I think a conversation between the two of you would be helpful. And then if you're not getting anywhere, then you can go you can take another tact.
Wherever. Okay. I mean, I wondered, can I just get a consensus? Melissa and Lori, do you and Stacy, do you feel like this is something that the committee, and Terry, if you can blink at us or something, what you'll have to something in the chat. Is this something that that we agree with? If you don't, that's fine, but I just want to understand, do we have some sort of a consensus that, hey, Cape Cod curves where they can be done, should be done, versus just standard putting up the bulbous kind?
I'll say I have no idea the difference between the two.
Cape Cod curbing is a more gentle slope, actually almost like my hand. Oh, here's the surface of the road, and here's the Cape Cod curb. It kind of is like so. So the
Okay.
water can flow down here, and it holds the soil back over on this side. It's a little bit raised. The conventional kind of bulbous stuff is what you've probably seen. It's typically done in asphalt, and it's a big round arch.
Yeah.
Typically goes about like this. So if you've ever ridden a bicycle on the road, you feel much more threatened when a car goes by and you're on a road where this kind of curb is than you do where this kind of curb is. So as far as biking, it's bad. And as Stacy has said, their equipment, when the tire whacks up against it, they've now jarred their, haying machine or baler or whatever it may be, and potentially cause damage. And then it whacks and jumps up over the curb and smashes down on the side. And then hopefully everything's okay. But thankfully I haven't hit a vehicle. So that's kind of the difference. And again, in terms of water flow, it's because it's a smaller, this will cause faster water flow than this, as Jennifer would probably tell us. Would you agree, Jennifer, that this would be a slower water flow than water flowing in something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think when you're looking at roadways, and I'm certainly not a roadway engineer, but sometimes you need to direct the flow.
That's absolutely true. And
that's when you use what you're calling the bulbous curbing. Sometimes you don't. It depends on, like, Mansfield City Road on that slope going down to 32. I would think they would need to do some major.
And there are exceptions, but the norm should be the more mellow one.
Yeah.
And then the further one is, again, here we are again, and this gets smacked with a snowplow. You've just ripped up 6 feet, maybe 8 feet, maybe 10 feet, maybe 20 feet, and I'm not exaggerating, of this stuff. And if you're like this, you whack it, and then you kind of turn back in, and you've just kind of carved it out because it doesn't give as much resistance. So it's not just standing up against the plow. It's kind of grazing the plow, and yes, it'll get a shave mark in it, but it won't be completely ripped up, which will then cause the town to need to go and pick these chunks up. I'm sure you've seen, well, all you need to do is look around and you'll see that kind of thing all over the place. And then you also see when the water gets out of control, it'll go over the bulb and start shredding the other side. So now you've got the same problem that you said you were avoiding, because you've got these heavier rainfalls. Whereas again, this will actually hold more water because it's going to be a broader path, just like a floodplain.
I will say my half of Mansfield City flooded on,
It's going to
I
do
don't
it on.
know, pick one of the storms this year.
Yeah.
And it did hold, with the bulbous, did hold it from going over.
Right.
So that problem did not happen with it.
If you look, you can find those. I think you might find fewer of them, but fine. Not every case is the same, and not everybody gets smashed up on a bike on them either. So anyhow, but I'm just again curious, is there a general consensus that it makes sense? Can I say that the committee generally agrees that that where we can, the Cape Cod curbing makes sense? Or that we
For
prefer
farm
that?
equipment, I mean, I think you need to narrow it to your.
I'll go off
your
on the other things,
agenda.
but for farm equipment, I think we heard compelling accounts from Stacy on our prior thing, but I guess, Laura, you may not have been here at that point.
If it's a safety issue, I'm not a town engineer for the roads, but I would suggest that my only input is if it is something that like Stacy's seeing with her large farm equipment, then it's something, of course, that should be brought up to the town manager, and ask the engineers to give a reason. Me not being an engineer on road work, I can only say, from her experience, that it's definitely a problem, that it should be brought up to them, and a conversation had as to, is this possible, and to have fixed, because it is a safety hazard. And then they can tell you, I'm sure that they're going to have why or why not that they can do it, whether I'm sure an engineer had to design that road. So let them tell you in that meeting if it's possible, and if they have the money to fix it to be different. So the farm equipment isn't, potentially hurting people. If, it causes an accident, that's a pretty big problem, if you ask me. But again, I'm not the engineer, so they are. So I think that's a really valid thing to ask them to have a conversation.
Keep you from having an opinion. Come on, this is the internet age. You're supposed to just have an opinion.
You know what? I guess my 6 years of working in a law firm makes me very
Uh-huh.
cautious. Let's put
Yep.
it that way.
Well, I
Like-
don't know that it's an accident so much with the farm equipment. It's just there's very little place to go. The Cape Cods give you a place to put a tire. You know, it's just that you can ease up onto it and give a little more space to the oncoming traffic. But I will also say that keeping the roads open and functional is very important to the farm equipment so that we can get where we need to go. So,
Yeah, I say it serves a conversation with the town and have them tell you why or why not they can put in the new curbing that's safer for the farm equipment. And if I sound like I'm a politician, it's because I'm very cautious about what I say in a public forum.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And Stacy, you're at ease with this.
I think it's definitely worth asking John again and just saying, hey, you know, just want to bring this back up, have the conversation again. I like John. He's really, and Derek was in school with us. They're really amenable to making it work. So I think if we bring it up again and ask, you know, and I know they have a lot of pressures they're facing, so it may just be it was a convenience thing, and it may be there is an engineering reason, like Jennifer said that, and I'm pointing over there. You guys have no idea what I'm pointing at. That steep section of Route 32, they have to have that kind on that. Actually, and I think I did ask John about that when I ran into him one day before COVID, but I don't remember what was said.
Terry, can you type something in the chat? Do you have a view on it? Anyhow, enough of that, Terry. You can put that in anytime or send me a note.
Well, and definitely if Jennifer, so we had a motion, but we never had a second. Do you want to rescind your motion and just reach out to John through Jennifer, and then we can bring it, add it to the November agenda if needed?
I'm happy to convene a meeting, Chris, between you and John, just to find out what's going on.
That'd be great.
Okay, so just reach out to me and we'll do that offline.
Does this mean you, me, and him?
I can be there. I don't know. I'm happy to be there. I'm certainly happy to be there.
Let's say
That would
convene a
be
meeting. I can just contact him and I can try to get a meeting with him.
okay. Let me know if you need me to help with that.
Thank you. Okay.
And I think I can't technically be there because it would be considered a committee meeting if there was multiples of us there, but if you want me to have a separate conversation with him or whatever too, I'm
Sure.
happy
That'd be
to
great.
reach out to him.
Okay.
Any other reports from members or staff? We have communications. The Native Plants and Pollinators Conference is coming up and you need to attend because it only happens every other year. Anything else? Jennifer, did you want to add anything on it?
Nope, just I put that in there. Thought it would be interesting to you all.
Anyone have anything else to add to our future meetings and agendas?
I have one question about the 2022 meeting schedule. Do you guys want to meet every other month next year, or continue with quarterly, or how do you want to do it? So I can put together the schedule.
I would prefer every other month because I think quarterly is a big enough gap that then we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, and you kind of do lose that momentum. So I'll put that schedule together for every other month. Okay. And you'll do your ag lease reporting forms, and then we can have, Chris, you can do a report on the curbing,
What do you mean by that? After I meet with
how it
you?
went with John, or if we need to take any other action, or you need to take any other action, the committee needs to take any other action, or how you want to move forward with this.
Yeah, let's revisit this until, make sure we have a resolution to that. Anything else? Any other? Think about being a secretary if you're so inclined to serve the committee, or finding a friend to join our committee that might love a secretarial position. And when somebody's ready, we'll have a motion to adjourn.
I'll move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Melissa. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Nay. Okay, motion passes, meeting adjourned. Thank you all for your time, and
We'll see you November 9th.
keep working on all this.
Take care.
Thanks,
Thank
guys. It was a
Bye-bye.
pleasure.
Thanks,
Nice to
Al.
meet- Thanks for coming out.
Bye.